Hey guys, it's Chelsea from the Smart Cookie Files, and today I have a new tag that I'm going to introduce to YouTube. It's actually a hashtag game that goes on Twitter, which, if you're not familiar with what a hashtag game is, it's a game on Twitter that usually authors establish, and it where writers and readers can come together and talk about different things. And for this one, you talk about different books that have affected you or your reading habits. So it's called BookshelfBuzz, and it's actually started by Leslie Hauser, author of Chasing Evelyn. Okay guys, so the first one is that you introduce yourself. So you guys already know me, but in case you're new to my channel, I'm Chelsea DeVries. I am the owner of the Smart Cookie Files, which is a book and music publicity site that correlates with my channel and most of the booktube videos that I do. But I also am an author of young adult romance, and I just completed my first full-length novel titled Kickfoot My Heart, and I'm working on getting that published. I also like to write creative nonfiction. I already have completed my memoir. I'm just working on that for publication. and then I also write poetry. So that's me. And on to the next one. Okay, number 2, reading goal for the month. My reading goal for this month was probably about 3 books. But I ended up reading 4 books, I think, if you include the books that I finished like towards the beginning of the month and then posted the reviews, which were 2 fiction books, which I'll probably mention somewhere in this video. Number 3, waiting for the next book from, I would say I'm waiting for the next book from Leslie Hauser, because Chasing Evelyn was amazing. She found a way to weave music into a story and told a story about like a girl who was like crazy about a band, which I relate to on many levels. And then kind of like she's a young adult and trying to figure out, like, young adult things, like, dealing with her, mother leaving, and then, living with just her dad, and then, I guess, making friends and, her first crush. It's been a while since I read that book, but I still thought it was a great book. So my next book that I'm waiting from is Leslie Hauser. Okay, number 4, a book with a Tom or Nick in it, and this one was incredibly difficult for me because I don't really have an extensive book collection. Like, I probably should have more classics, but I don't. And so I couldn't find any books within my personal library that had a Tom or Nick main character. But the one that came to mind in terms of any book would be Tom Sawyer. Okay. Number 5 is your fictional BFF. That would probably be this girl right here. Well, she's a young woman, but it's Drew, because she always was like valiant and basically wasn't scared of anything. And like, some of the places she went to, I was freaking creeped out reading, so I was like, how are you just walking in there all by yourself with a freaking flashlight, like, and you're young, like, okay, that's not scary. But So yeah, she's like brave, and basically she's my fictional BFF. But the other fictional BFF would probably be my main character in my upcoming novel, Kickflip My Heart, Jessica Cortez, because I just, there's pieces of me within her, but I also just made sure that she was like relatable on multiple levels. She's half Latina, she has daddy issues, she's an actress, and she's looking for love. So, I mean, if you can't relate to one of those 4 things, then basically you need to get out more. Okay, but number 6, an interesting nonfiction read. That would be, I love Joyce Meyer, and all of her books like are super good. Like, she's an amazing writer, but also like her books, I learned so much from them in terms of like who needs a self-help book when you could just read Joyce Meyer? And even though it's like Christian principles, even if you don't subscribe to a faith, like there's a lot that she mentions that really holds precedence no matter what. And like if you're dealing with like anxiety, like this one is about stress overload. It's about pressures from stress. So if you have a lot of stress, I would recommend this because I learned so many things. And as you can see, let me see if I can find an example. Like, I highlighted most of this book, and then there's like sticky notes that say stuff that I like wrote notes. That's how you know I'm learning from a book, if I actually like write notes within the book. Okay. Number 7 was another one that I just don't know, and it's a book with winter in the title. I didn't have any in my personal library, and I couldn't think of any. And of course I'm not going to just Google something just to answer a question, so that one's left unanswered. So if you actually know of a book that has winter in the title and you'd like to leave a comment with the answer, that would help me greatly, because I don't like to leave things unanswered. But that one I couldn't find. Number 8 is a TBT, which is favorite picture book. Now, it's probably supposed to be a picture book from your childhood, but my childhood was equally built up by this picture book. But in terms of like a little kid picture book, that would probably be Peter Rabbit or something like that, which the movie just came out, and I look forward to seeing that. But another recent made into a movie book was Captain Underpants. This is a picture book. There was cartoons throughout, and even though it's like, because it's built like a comic book, because that's what the kids write, the 2 main characters. But so for me, that's my favorite. Okay, number 9, blue book cover. A beautiful blue book cover, and for me that one was this, which is Just One Wish by Jeanette Allison. I always thought this was a pretty book cover, even though it's like super simple. It's just like one of those flowers that you like can blow on from, like, they're actually technically weeds, but when you pick it up then you blow, and then all those little like pieces blow out, and then it's like you can make a wish. I forget what they're called, but it's just like a simple cover, but I also like the story. Like, this was one of her funniest books that she ever wrote, because there was like so many quotes from this one that I used to like have on my wall in college. Or no, actually, you know that like part on Facebook where you used to be able to put your favorite quotes? I don't know if they still have that, but I think when Facebook first started, they had like a section for favorite quotes, and I had like all quotes from that book because they were funny. But I'm pretty sure people who like came to a profile were probably like, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is referring to. So anyway, number 10, recommend a book. That would probably be this one that I just finished. It's one of the two that I mentioned earlier in the video that I recently reviewed. I actually won this in a giveaway through bookishfirst.com, and I was like totally stoked because I loved the first chapters. Like, what you do on there is, if you are a book blogger or somebody who likes to read books and review them, you can actually go on there, join. You get to read like a taste of the book before it's even before it's been published. Say what your first impression is of it, and then once you post that through the site, they put everyone's name who submitted their first impression of that book into a raffle, and then you have a chance to actually win a review copy from the publisher, which this was cool because I just love this book. It's basically a book dedicated to girls who like to read and the men who love them. That's basically what it says at the bottom, but I could tell that right away from the first few chapters, and I just said this book is totally like something I need to own, and I was totally stoked that I won. So I actually should go back on here and enter more raffles. But anyway, where are you reading today is number 11. I actually read in my family room today. I woke up while everyone was, my sister was still sleeping, and then my mom was at work, and I read my two books that I'm currently reading there, and it was nice to just wake up and read. Like, that is totally like an ideal day off. Either wake up and read or wake up and write are two of my favorite things, other than waking up and exercising. I also like to do like cardio or something to actually like wake me up naturally before I even eat breakfast. Number 12. Oh, perfect book to film movie adaptation, and that would be, I couldn't find my copy, but I don't know if I sold it, so anyway, but that would be Twilight, New Moon, because I was Team Jacob, and like this book was where their relationship was like showcased throughout, and I just loved this book the best. It was the second book, so if I have the title wrong, please somebody let me know, but I think it was New Moon within the Twilight books. Number 13, a vicious villain. That would be the villain in Fairy Tale by Daniel Steele. Now, if you haven't read that book yet, I highly recommend that as well. It's like, it was something, I've never read a fiction book by Daniel Steele, but then when I read that, I was like, okay, this is why she always looks bougie on the back of her covers, and she just like sells millions of copies, because she's actually like really good. I used to like not think that she actually was worthy to read, and then I actually sat down and said, okay, let me give her a chance, and I was definitely surprised. That was a great book. So the villain within that story would be the vicious villain that came to mind. Number 14, what do you love about reading? What I love about reading is that it takes you to places you've never been, or it puts you in someone else's shoes who ends up being a lot like you a lot of the time. The books that I've read and reread over and over are books that had characters that like I related to their struggles. I related to their issues that they were dealing with within the context of the story. And so, like, for me, that's important, like, to be able to find people who have common interests and common struggles, because then you know that even though they're fictional, you're not alone. Like, there's other people who think like this, because even though they're fictional, you know that someone had to create them, the author. So then, in some way, shape, or form, they either had to deal with it themselves, or they knew somebody that had to deal with it. So you know that somewhere down the line, somebody dealt with that certain issue. So it's like, you're just like, oh, okay, good. There's other people like this. Like, especially in terms of, like, by the book, there's a quote that I actually used in the review. I made a graphic for it. It says, hold on. Maybe. A life of the mind required the denial of other desires. And, like, for me, that was, like, it hit right home, because I feel like I've dedicated my life to being educated. So I haven't had many particular jobs that are, like, normal jobs that people do. I actually didn't have my first job till I went to college, other than being a professional writer. But, like, that really, like, well, I'm not saying that's not a job, but I'm saying that it didn't pay. And so, like, my first job was working in a library at my university, and, like, that was my first job. And then when I went home, then I started getting other jobs, like I did seasonal for Best Buy, you know, and now I work as a hostess. I'm not going to say where, but basically within a restaurant that is pretty popular within our country. But I feel like I lost out on that. I mean, I had a good social life within, because I was actually in the International Baccalaureate program in high school, and within that, like, we were a tight-knit group, so I made friends that I actually still talk to, a few of them. Like, they were people that they had the same goals. Like, they just wanted to be smart, and we were just cool nerd kids. Like, I don't know what to say, but it's not that we just think of, like, being educated and we're stiff. We, like, have stiffness about us. Like, we like the same things. We want to fall in love. We want to be able to have a good life, travel, see the world. We love to listen to music. A lot of the times, a lot of people that are really smart really like music, or like to study art, and or know a lot about art and stuff like that. Like, we have other things, so it's like, being bookish, like, people put us in a box of, like, oh, you're just a nerd, but we're still human at the end of the day. So it's like, that quote of the desire of, like, to pursue the mind is to deny yourself other desires, means, like, oh, you'll never find somebody who will love you as you are, or anything. It's not true, but that quote hit home, because that's how I feel like I've lived my life. Like, I've missed out on, like, normal things. Like, I didn't really date. I haven't dated much throughout my life. Like, I don't really care about that. And it's not that I'm not looking for somebody or, like, open to it. It's just that I am pursuing the betterment of myself as a person, so I'm always pursuing being educated. And I also feel like I just am too smart, so sometimes, like, I don't really want to deal with, like, immature guys. But anyway, this answer was too long, so, okay. A book that I could recommend to my dad. Okay. Well, like, within my own personal library, I didn't really find much, because most of the books I have, like, I own, are, like, chick lit books, so it's, like, But actually, probably it would be two. It would be this one, which is The Mind Connection, and I actually gave him the audiobook for, and, I don't even remember what happened to that, to be honest. Other than that, because I just felt like he needed something to help him, like, because this book showcases Joyce's book, talks about how your thoughts basically affect the rest of your life. So it's like another interesting read by Joyce. But basically, I felt like it would help him because he seems to always be down a lot, and I don't know, that's why I thought to recommend it. But I recommended to him a book that I read because it actually featured people that he was interested in, like, because he watches the History Channel and stuff like that, so he watches, like, things that are, like, interesting. And then there was the guy that made the Coral Castle. You need to Google the Coral Castle. I'm forgetting his name now, but then there's Edward Leeskin, and I don't know if that's the same. No, I don't think it's the same person. But they were mentioned in the book Proof by Ted Berner, and that is a book that actually is coming up. Number 17 is a sci-fi book recommendation. I recommend that. It's a book that talks about the Bible verse Genesis 6:3 or 6:4, where it talks about giants and how we don't see giants nowadays, and it's almost like, how come, like, people, like the government and stuff like that, they try to hide stuff, and it kind of, like, showcases different conspiracy theories and, like, builds a story on that, and it's really a really good book. I really, really like it. There's actually a sequel coming out the author's working on, and I'm so excited for that to come out as well. Okay. So that's the other book I recommended to my dad because he is interested in stuff like that. A red book cover. Well, there's not really red on the cover, but there's red on the binding. So, and that would be Waiting for You by Susan Colasanti, because it's my favorite book ever. Okay. A frustrating character that, like, you just want to punch them or, like, shake them and be like, what are you doing? Okay. For me, that was Anna in 50 Shades. She was just, like, there was, like, things that she did, not about the sex stuff, but, like, as a person, where she, like, doubted Christian and was, like, having all these thoughts. I'm sure there have been moments where I've been like that myself, but, like, when I saw it in another person, I was just like, girl, come on. You like him, he likes you, let's go. Like, stop wasting time. Okay, but as I said, I probably have been in that situation and didn't realize that I was being that annoying, so maybe that's why I was so frustrated, because it was like a self-reflection of something that happened in my past. Who knows? So anyway, a book blogger shout out. I actually don't know, forget what the name is, but so that's the next one, number 19. Number 20. Okay, I have to go get the other book. Just give me one moment. Okay, well, I already did a TBR for February, but in case you didn't watch that video, I will link it in the description. But my two books that I'm reading right now, I actually had 3 that I featured in the TBR, and 1 I couldn't get into, so that's gone. So here's my announcement saying the books that I'm still currently reading, which is Food Forensics by Mike Adams, which talks about toxic chemicals that get released into our food and cause us to develop cancer and such, Very interesting read, but very textbook-like, so you kind of need a lot of caffeine to get through it, because it's almost like studying for a medical test, like to get your doctorate or something. But it's actually really interesting, because I'm a little bit of a science nerd, whereas I like to study nutrition, and I also like to study, like, just health, human health. And this is the other one, After the Storm by Ava St. Pierre, and this is a memoir. She was a beauty queen, and this is her memoir where she talks about her her abusive childhood, where she dealt with her mother's mental illness. It's really good. But, okay, number 21 is to read page 21 in your current read, and I'm going to spare you not reading the food book, because that book is like, you literally will go to sleep if I read you page 21 of that book. So I'll read you this. My mom's violence escalated, and her mind became more disillusioned after each and every treatment she went through at the hospital. My dad began to realize that major decisions had to be made for the safety of his children. At the same time, he tried hard to get the best possible help for his lovely wife. He worked hard to make a living and played the roles of being both parents. If ever there was a hero, Dad was it. He took single parent to a new extreme. I hold a soft spot for single parents out there, as I know how difficult it is to raise children on your own without a support system of a spouse or family member. So saying it takes a village to raise a family is true in most cases, and that's why I respect single parents immensely. I bow to all the single parents reading this. The days, weeks, months, and years ahead for Mom, Kathleen, consisted of sad times as I witnessed how easily confused with amnesia, paranoia, and schizophrenia she became. I knew she was sick when I was little, but I didn't understand the severity of what she was diagnosed with until I was an adult. It seems easy to judge and think we were the ones going through such horrible times, but I can't help but think what my mom must have gone through. What were her thoughts, and how sad and empty was her life? It breaks my heart to know she missed out on her children growing up. There were no longer simple pleasures in life once she became ill. For example, no family dinners at the table, enjoying music, decorating the house, family vacations, participation in school activities, celebrating holidays, etc. She was no longer the mommy I once knew. I held on to the good memories and fun times we had and never let go. Many tell me what a strong memory I have, especially for being so young during these times. I felt it was the only hope for strength I had and wanted to hang on to every moment. It was all I had of an image of what a mother, love, comfort, tenderness, and affection looks like. That's page 21 of the book I'm currently reading, which is After the Storm by Ava St. Pierre. A book that you remember from school. There were 3 books that I actually liked that I read in school. One is which I'll show you in a second, but Great Gatsby was good. I got into that good. And then one that I was super surprised that I got into it, but because it had magical realism, I think that's what really struck me. And then the eloquence with which Marquez writes was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Then the other one that I loved is this one, which is, and I kept it from school, and The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I just like the vignettes. That was how I realized that I just love vignettes, and but I can see where this book totally has a little more strength to its vignettes than my first literary debut at 15. But that'll be fixed with my new book. Green book cover is number 23, and that would be this one right here. It has green on it, a lot of green. It's called Guardian's Paradise by W.E. Lawrence. I just think the cover is so well done, and basically it really showcases the heart of the story too. So 24, a book with a winter setting. As I said, I couldn't find any within my personal library, and actually I'm surprised that I don't have the Laura Ingalls books anymore. I'm pretty sure they're somewhere, but I couldn't find them in the places I looked. So I would say one of the books talks about winter directly within the Laura Ingalls books, and that would be the book that came to mind. What are you reading today? That would be these two books, After the Storm and Food Forensics. Book that should be a movie, that would be this book right here. And actually, I cannot confirm this nor deny this, but there has been many mentions by Susan Colasanti herself that she secured like film or television rights for one of her books, and I'm pretty sure it's this one because this is her first ever book that she wrote and put out, and it got me started on my love of her and her writing. And it's called When It Happens by Susan Colasanti, and this is the book that I believe should be a movie, even if this isn't the book that they were referring to. I also think any of Colasanti's books could be a movie. I would equally love to see Waiting for You be a movie. I'd probably yell at the screen throughout because they'll probably rip it apart and make me hate it, but at the same time, both of these books should be movies. I'd also go see this as a movie too. Like, there's just books that, like, they're so well written that they could be movies. They could be adapted for screen, but there's some books that become movies and you're just like, you ruined it. Another, for the question, best book to a film adaptation would be probably A Walk to Remember, because A Walk to Remember, I cried throughout reading that book so bad, and then I went to see the movie and I cried too. But they really did good with the script. The rest of the Nicholas Sparks movies I didn't really like from book to movie, because I would read the books before I would go see the movie, and then I'd be like, wow, they cut that whole scene out, really? I get so mad. But the only one that I only saw the movie was The Notebook, and then I tried to go back and read the book, but it's like once you see the movie, then your whole, like, you know how, like, when you're reading, you imagine the character, so, like, that was all taken away because you already saw the movie, so, like, you see it as the movie, and then it was hard to read the book. But I'm sure if I would have read the book first and then saw the movie, like, I'm sure that one also was pretty good with book to film adaptation. Bookish Gifts. That would be bookmarks, sticky notes. I actually have coffee sticky notes and coffee cup sticky notes. That would be good for people who read. Can't go wrong with getting them, like, pens. There's also two sites that this shirt came from, as well as I also have not bought anything from them yet, but I really love their products too, and they have bookish like clothes and stuff that express your love of books, and it's called awesomelibrarians.com. I'll put the link in the description. And then the other one that I am obsessed with, because they are, like, I swear they're my, like, coffee loving soulmate. One of the two brothers. I don't know if you're watching this. This is getting weird, but I'm sorry. One of you guys, I swear you guys are my soulmate. But it's called As of Latte, and it is my favorite site. I don't know how I found them. I'm pretty sure it was through Instagram, but I found them by one of their products was showcased, and then I just, like, literally stalk them all the time. They are the best because literally coffee is my lifeblood. So I just love everything they're about, and they're just so cool too. Like, they actually reply to your comments if you like comment on their posts, and like also they probably would take my suggestions if I came up with like new coffee flavors, because they actually have started coming out with their own coffee. They currently just came out with fortune cookie flavored coffee, and like, if you know, you don't know, but I've never talked about this on a video, but I love fortune cookies, and not because of the cookie, but because of the fortune. Like, I have a weird thing about fortune cookies, because at my university where I went, which was St. Leo University, they used to have a bowl of fortune cookies in the dining hall, and every time I would get one, it was spot on. There was like never a time where, except when they started to repeat, but like the ones that I would get and then I would open the cookie and then read it, it was like that literally would happen, and it was kind of creepy to the point where like it was like they were psychic cookies in a way that I never saw of fortune cookies, because usually when you get them from the Chinese restaurants, like, the fortune can go either way. It's kind of like horoscopes. It's like somebody wrote that and they don't really give a shit about you. But these fortune cookies were spot on. Like, there was one that specifically was someone is watching you from afar, which, that if you got that fortune, wouldn't you be a little bit creeped out? I literally looked over my shoulder and there was a guy that, like, he kind of liked me, or at least he thought I was cute. He was actually right behind me, like, from afar, and like, it was so weird, because I turned around and he was looking at me, and I was just like, oh my god, these cookies are freaking spot on. Okay, so yeah, that's my story about fortune cookies and my weird obsession with them. But yeah, so Bookish Gifts, those are the two sites you need to visit. I'm sure there's other ones, but those are the ones so far that I've found that I'm like obsessed with everything those two sites put out, because they speak to my love of books and my love of coffee, and books and coffee go together like mac and cheese, apples and pie, like cheesecake and cheesecake, I don't know. Like, yeah, so number of books read this month, that would be, by the time this video comes out, it would be, well, no, 4 would be the number of books I read this month. I'm going to finish the 2 books I'm currently reading, so yeah, 4. But thanks for watching this extremely long video, and I'm sorry if it bored you. I'm sorry if you had to fast forward through parts. Hope you don't think I'm really weird now because I have an obsession with fortune cookies. But by the way, I found, when I was looking for like the books to answer the questions, I found this within like a box where I have some of my books, and this is from my St. Leo library. And I remember when this was on the reference desk and I seen this, and I was like, oh my god, it's actually a skateboarder on a bookmark. Like, it was profound, because as you guys know, I'm like a huge fan of street skateboarding in general as a sport, but especially street skateboarding. And obviously, if you don't know who Tony Hawk is, you need to Google him and like soak in his essence of greatness, because he's amazing. Also an amazing dude too, but in terms of talent, he's also good, and he's really helped the sport. He's actually working currently on coming out with the skateboard emoji, because why do they have to be so like hateful and never represent skateboarding? Come on, this is 2018. There should be a skateboard emoji, because some people like skateboarding. Thank you for watching this, and until next time, feel free to express yourself. Bye, guys. Oh, I never showed you my shirt. Okay, it says, drippin' in finesse. Oh. Okay. Drippin' in Finesse. Thanks guys for watching. Bye.